Hi, I'm Julia Stege, the magical marketer and the compiler of The Moment I Said Yes, stories of soul-led trailblazers turning purpose into a way of life. And today I have Reverend Janice Thomas with me. We've known each other for quite a long time. Great to have you with us. And Janice has written a chapter for our first anthology called The Light That Has No Shadow. So, Janice, tell us what inspired you to join in on this anthology to begin with.
Well, it was such an opportunity, and it came kind of at the right time. I had had some friends who've done anthologies and stuff, um, and it's wanting to get out into the world in print something that will be available. Kind of legacy. I'm getting older. I know that there's an end here somewhere, and these stories that to me are so exciting because they're just little vignettes of boom, here's what happened. And these spiritual experiences that I've had over time that have led to this opening, uh, of becoming devoted to being, living my life with a spiritual side, with a spiritual essence, with a desire to bring the best that I have to the world. Now, that may mean tripping up a few times here or there, but to really just um, letting people know these things can happen, and they're like they're out of the blue. These are not like some of the other chapters, which are, I became that I really could see this suddenly. These are like little things that lead you along, and you go, wow, almost in retrospect, that's interesting, and then the pieces come together and not having had a place to put it. And that's what the anthology seemed to me, that it will be out in print and available for people, for whomever it might touch, you know
Yeah,
and
I
then to
love
have these other people, doing the same thing. So
I
yeah,
love the idea that in some future time we can't even imagine somebody picks it up and they're inspired in their own journey. I don't think you share about this, but you were a techie,
that's true.
right? And
uh,
so it's not like you
Almost
were
20 years, yeah.
you were not like you were going a short distance into becoming, a spiritual trailblazer, really, but in a completely different world. So what I wonder, Janice, is how does it feel to be a soul-led trailblazer in this day and age?
Well, again, it began decades ago. And uh, just recently, somebody said to me, who's in my Energy First Responders group, um, and he called me a light leader. And I was like, when you're not, you're just having a day. And he said, but you're, this light. And I was like, wow. And I
I
had to
like that.
own
I
it,
wrote that down.
and I know, and I had to own it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I am. And that's what I've become. And so it, it, it was like, yeah, one of many, bringing the light here, because you may have noticed there's a little darkness occasionally on this
Yeah, there's some
planet.
darkness in the world. Yeah.
And what I chose to do with this chapter, um, because I've been pessimistic many years ago and stuff, was to keep the chapter positive, to not go into here's how horrible things were, but to say, look, here's a little piece where the positive came out because I just opened to what I was getting to do in the moment, not plan, not anything. And then you can see when you open and stay positive, And that's the benefit, I think, of being whatever word we want to use for these people who are in this book, this anthology, um, is to have that positive feeling so that the people reading it or listening to this little interview can understand this is what it feels like to be this, rather than for me a lot of dialogue about da 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 and this one and that one. But it's like here's a sample of what it feels like to say yes. And then anyone reading can find their own way with that. Not that I'm telling them what to do, but I'm saying, here, look, this is how it feels, and it feels wonderful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I love the title of your chapter, The Light That Has No Shadow, because it reminds, well, first of all, it's a very leading edge concept. So, they're very trailblazery. And because of what you said, that many of us are kind of focused on the shadow, or complaining about the way things are, or feeling bad about how we feel, or, which is sort of a double negative. Um, how do you see, without giving away too much about your chapter, because we want people to be inspired to read it, and you've put a lot of work into making it just, you
For
know,
sure,
just
for sure.
perfect. Um, what does that mean, the light that has no shadow?
um, we have been living here on the planet um, in what everybody calls the 3D, the third dimension,
Hmm.
which consists of polarity. If you ever read Carl Jung, whatever, this concept of right, wrong, good, and bad. And there's also Rumi has his famous poem um, about going to the field, going to the place where we aren't in that. And the word that I use is judgment. It's judgment that takes us into right, wrong. Either I'm so good and everybody else is wrong, or the reverse ego, I'm not good enough kind of a thing. Um, and there's always this comparison. So this place, the light that has no shadow, isn't in polarity. It doesn't have the two sides, the right, wrong. It is a place where, and it's only coming in now. It's not like it's here immediately for everybody. You kind of reach up for it. And it is so loving. It's people call it infinite love or unconditional love, where when you're there, you don't have any sense of anyone being right or wrong, good or bad. There's just that feeling of being one. People keep talking about oneness. Well, what is that? That's what these little vignettes are about. Or I'm in that space of oneness, of not being judgmental. And I think that's kind of where we're going. So there is no darkness that is opposite. The light itself is just everything. So that's why there's no shadow. And
Yeah.
and it's a different concept from the sun and the stars, and all of that. It's just all there. And it's heart. The heart is expanding unbelievably these days. And that's what's
Well,
exciting about writing.
it kind of reminds me of part of one of your vignettes in your chapter where you didn't even know, on January 6th
Oh, yeah.
what was going to happen that day, but you were leading the you were
Energy,
leading your
energy
um
first responders. Yeah.
energy first responders. Yeah.
Well,
And like how you work with people from various different views. So this is a big challenge, right?
very much So very much so. And
And you're demonstrating how even in a very contentious day, um, with v where the views of Americans were radically split. And yet you brought together a group of people who, um, with varying views, but with
one intention.
one intention. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So how
and
do you feel to be, a soul-led trailblazer in this day and age with such polarity, and you're holding this light that has no shadow? How does that feel?
it's different. Some days it's difficult. And I do find that when I'm leading this particular group, um, I sometimes censor myself because I know that, oh, that might offend somebody, you know, or not. And if I trip up, they'll tell me, you know, what did I do? But when you continue to do that, and when you continue to have to look from that higher point of view without
Right.
judgment, you know, and trust me, there are people I don't necessarily agree with, but it's not about that. It's about the intention that's above that. That is to bring in peace, to bring in love, to bring in energies that help people on a planetary level move forward. There's so much fear, for example. Well, no matter what our thoughts are, we all want everybody to be out of fear. So that's what can bring people together, is what we really are looking for. And we're kind of looking for the same thing, even though, um, it, and we don't discuss things at the mental level, and we
Right.
work with so much light and love, and it's the energies. I'm very much into energies, and that's what helps. And when you have uh, a neutral space or a loving space, it you can let go and wipe away, all of that conflict. Uh,
Right.
and so, but then I have to think outside of that to bring it in for people, you know, and I can't just say, well, so and so did such and such, and we better send energy,
All
uh,
right.
and there were columns of light that I was with another group years before this in Washington, D.C., where we were bringing in energy, and I had gotten an invitation for us into Congress, just, as observers. And we put in columns of light in each house, uh, the Senate and the um, House of Representatives, and throughout the Capitol building, in the middle of it. I mean, just and so it was that guidance that day before, which had an election in it, and I was just guided, oh, let me bring in these columns of light again. And I did that, and the energy was like, whew, it's like, wow. And then the next morning, I was with the group, and I said, hey, let's do this. And probably 3 hours later, after we had had our meeting, all heck broke loose. And no one, people no one can really convince me that us doing that and having all that light in these columns of light that were already there physically that we had put in um, didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
It made a difference about what happened. And it doesn't mean that one side won or one side lost, but it was about the potential for things being worse. And
Yeah.
I was never so grateful to have followed what I was led to do.
What you were led, your yes, as it were.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of kind of, energy stuff and how we're connected and how things that we do impact people that we never will meet.
Yeah.
And there's that feeling in your chapter of a consciousness of if I reside at this place of the light that has no shadow, I am creating the space for the planet to be in the light. And, you've been around the block, as it were. And
Of course you have.
I want to acknowledge that when we were working together, 10 years ago, and you were using the word Renaissance, I didn't even it didn't even click with me at the time. And I see you at that as that, you're just operating out here, on that leading edge. And whether or not everyone gets it right now, it's creating the space for them to get it
Right,
and to
right.
for that to happen, for the people that are reading this book.
Um, One of the things this morning in my group, um, I was guided to try to energetically create a pathway from that from as high consciousness as we can reach at any point, but through for healing through to the physical level. A new pathway. There's so much new coming in there. There's new ways of being. We're not going to be who we used to be as humans. It's going to happen over time. We're not going to wake up one morning um, without doing a lot of work. Um, but where, you can bring in a lot of spiritual healing for people, do the emotions and all the things that happened to them in the past and all of that. But to get those to those little cells of the body, to heal things that we thought were unhealable, to make that bridge that gap, um, into how do we use these spiritual energies um, to really affect the physical body more now and to make changes of oh, your vertebra was all crooked and da da da, and the disc was wrong, and be able to do healing at that level. So again, I'm hoping, and we felt this amazing energy this morning because it was so big, and it it was um, it will be very interesting. But it was just the start of a pathway. And where does that idea come from, and how will it manifest? I don't know, but I'm hopeful that this work plus this anthology will be available, like you said, for everybody at certain other levels. Maybe, can I make a joke?
Yeah.
Maybe those people who are colonizing the moon will bring a book with them.
Right. Well, I like to see it, or maybe see it a little similar but different. Of like 100 years from now, a book falls off the shelf in the
Right.
library and hits somebody on the head who really needed it. You know, because so many books that have inspired me over the years were written a long, long time ago, and they
Right.
had no
Yeah.
concept of what
Yeah.
the world was going to be like, the world
Right.
in which their book is being read and having an influence.
Yeah.
So, that inspires me to put these anthologies and other books together. Um, so what was it like for you to actually put your personal journey um, into a chapter for this book? I know that you had a lot of things and you had a lot of stories to tell, and you got it
Um,
all together. How did that feel?
it felt wonderful. It really did. And to relive these things and um, I was, this is very important. I was gifted with the opportunity through the process of groups meeting together um, to
Our little
read to read a
author circle.
story or two to read
Yeah.
a
Oh,
story
yeah.
or two to the group.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so lovely because you could feel when I finished the little vignette, um, there was silence. People emotionally got it. They got the message. They didn't have to have me explain, oh, here's the lesson that's in here. But they got it. And that was so exciting. And what happened for me in reading it to people, which is another step, um, it was so exciting that part of me from that time has felt like, how can I do this? How can I now be a place where I'm creating stories about real things and read them to people, speak somewhere? And that's never been what I was thinking.
Wow.
But I was so excited about it, and I don't know where it's going to go or whatever. But it was that feeling of reaching people, and then when you get to that last line, and then you pause, and then it gives the people time to accept it. So that's another way besides people reading, and we'll see where that leads. But again, did I plan on that as part of what? I don't know. So, and
Maybe on
maybe,
the soul level you did.
well, yeah, because there's so much when you say yes. There's so much when you say yes. And maybe you'll start a place where we can read certain things, not just put out the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, you mentioned the other folks in the circle. What does it feel like to bring your unique voice to a collective project like this with these 10 other co-authors?
well, it's going to be interesting because certainly the group meetings have been lovely and interesting and chaotic and other things.
Yeah, a little bit.
Um, but but what I'm interested in hasn't happened yet, which is when we have this time in September, uh, where we're going to have a party and we're going to have different people all available talking together. And I'm looking forward to what that's going to be like
Yeah.
with each person in their own voice, but coming together and supporting each other and playing off each other. You know, well, here's what I got from over here. Well, here's what I got. And it's so much more exciting because I believe that part of what's also happening is we're going into dealing much more with groups, communities, and that's what this could become, a community. What you're doing with these several anthologies, including this first one, creating community, creating these places. So,
Yes. I do feel that way. And there's something, I would say united about a group of people who would say yes to a book called The Moment I Said Yes, and they all do have such different stories, but how they all go together, they just naturally come together. It's like magic.
and you've been able to do that, to view it as it's been coming together,
Yeah.
by helping and being with each person. Um,
Well, what is it that you really hope that people get from reading your chapter?
the word that's coming right now, which wasn't planned, is hope,
Mm,
real hope, and an ability to look at their own lives differently, to say, oh, this vignette uh, of discovering the higher consciousness of a garbage person collector,
yes.
that they can say, oh, I can see so and so who I don't normally interact with. What would it be like if I interacted with that person in a different view? That they can take these little stories and find their own. Where are these places of yes? Where are these places of opening to whatever's being suggested and finding
Mm.
something that's a treasure? The diamond at the bottom of that you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
That's what I really,
Oh,
and
I love that.
in this time where we're doing it now, but like you said, it will come true later, where there seems to be the density, the darkness, and to find that it's all light, it's all light,
It's
and
all
to
light.
find their way, and to have these stories be an opening for them into their own life. That's makes my heart sing. And there are so many things now, decades ago, that I started with, like Reiki. Nobody knew what that was.
Yeah.
Body, mind. Nobody knew that. And it's all here now. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, oh, that where I was the leading edge, you know, uh, the light leader, studying all these things decades ago, that it's come into something. And then from here, it'll go on, to the next thing. So that's very exciting.
It's very hopeful.
And that's.
Janice, for the readers who dive into your chapter, did you if they want to
Oh,
take these concepts further, did you have a special resource or tool that you're
well,
gonna make available for them?
again, because of Julia's openness, and the publisher's openness, I created a page called the epilogue, which, who knew that I was going to
Who
do
knew you
that?
were gonna have an epilogue?
Right, and because I wasn't in my mind. But the epilogue gives me a chance to say a few more things than you can in a short bio, and then open up the space to a link that'll be on my website that people can link from the book to, that will contain two things. And the first is just a journaling kind of technique of saying, where's your garbage collector story? Where's your opportunity? And allow people to find their own way with that journaling, because so many people get so much from journaling. And the second, because I'm such an energy person, um, is will be a short recording of just some kind of core consciousness higher space for people to enjoy. So I think that's great. I mean, that's two fabulous things.
That is two fabulous things, Janice. Thanks for your generosity and um, for taking such care with your chapter and bringing forward your own spiritual journey um, and bringing it all together in a way that we can really get your leading edge um, trailblazing perspective. It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being in our book and for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's been a pleasure. God bless all the people watching this with whatever they need. Thank you.